So, yes, hello everyone again. My name is Roni Utriainen and I'm a traffic engineer at the City of Helsinki at the Traffic and Street Planning unit. And next I will mostly talk you about our traffic safety approach, our recent key measures to promote traffic safety here from the traffic environment point of view and this policy point of view. And let's start with this. But before talking more about the actual measures, I just want to give you a little bit background of the City of Helsinki's recent development and also our transport system here. And regarding traffic safety, the traffic fatality statistics is one of the key measures to follow the development there. And here on the left side, you can see the number of traffic fatalities in Helsinki per 100,000 inhabitants in the recent about 25 years. And here you can see that there has been a great decline during this time period. You can see that during the last couple of years there have been less than one traffic fatality per 100,000 inhabitants. And in other way around, this means that as there are about 700,000 people living in Helsinki, and there have been about 4 or 5 or 6 traffic fatalities annually during the last couple of years. So altogether, this means that there have been less than one fatality per 100,000 inhabitants. And also, as we just heard, there was also this 12-month period from last year's summer to this year's summer when there were no traffic fatalities at all, which was also a great achievement. But of course, there's still lots of work to be done, and unfortunately, this period or without any traffic fatalities already ended. But on the right side, I would also like to highlight that you can see the mode share in the City of Helsinki, and this represents the share of trips that are made inside the city by the residents of Helsinki. And here you can see that about 40% of all trips inside the city are actually walking trips, which means that walking is very popular transport mode in Helsinki. And I think this is partly due to the fact that the city is quite dense, meaning that many daily activities locate near your home, so walking is quite easy solution in many cases. And overall, the share of sustainable transport modes is rather high. I mean that the share of walking, public transport, and cycling altogether is close to 80%. So overall, in these trips inside the city, so the share of sustainable transport modes is very high. And as other background, I'd like to also highlight that the city is highly focusing on developing light rail network, and here we can see some plans and visions for the future. At the moment, there are I think there are 12 tram lines at the moment in Helsinki, and those tram lines are mainly in the inner city and the city center area. But here in this plan, you can see that there is a plan and vision that in the future there would be many tram lines also between some other areas in the city, and not all of them are related to the connections in the city center area. And actually some of those lines you can see they are already under planning or under or they are already we are already building them, and on those pictures you can see an example of one of the ongoing projects where there will be very long bridge between the city center area and one new residential area which will be developed. And in this case the city especially wants to highlight the sustainable transport modes, as these bridge connections will only be for trams, pedestrians and cyclists, and there were not going to be any cars on this connection. So this is one example to promote sustainable transport modes as a main transport mode. And overall, when the city aims to develop new areas and housing, the idea is that this area will strongly be connected to this good public transport system, and this is very key element also for our traffic safety point of view, and a way to promote traffic safety too. But this was as a background about our approach to many traffic-related questions and our current situations regarding traffic safety. But next I will focus more on these detailed measures to promote traffic safety by the City of Helsinki. And Helsinki has a traffic safety development program where we determine our key measures to promote traffic safety. And most of these measures are related to traffic environment, but this program has also made together with other sectors and disciplines, which means that there are also measures regarding education, traffic enforcement, and informing about risk factors, for instance. And this program mainly aims to emphasize the safety of children, pedestrians, and the cyclists, which means that there should be less crashes within these road user groups, but also that walking and cycling is perceived as safer and accessibility is improved. And our current long-term vision, which would say guides our current work, is Vision Zero, meaning that no one needs to get killed or be seriously injured in the traffic of Helsinki. And we have also a goal to halve the number of traffic fatalities and injuries during this decade. And I will highlight some of the key measures we think that are key measures to our recent development in traffic safety. But it's also good to note that when we are talking about this complex transport system, it's not always easy to say what measures is exactly behind the certain kind of development. But based on studies and expert evaluations, we think that these measures would be really key important measures, but there are probably some others too. And it's also good to note that these measures are only related to traffic environment, but of course traffic behavior, attitudes, safer vehicles, those kind of issues are also really important for better traffic safety. But I will start talking about speed limits, as it is one of the key measures, I think, and Helsinki has reduced speed limits several times during the last decades. And as you can see here from these maps, that in the 1970s and also in the beginning of 1980s, 50 kilometers per hour was the most common speed limits, and in many years also the only speed limits in Helsinki. But today, more than half of the streets have a speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour. And those latest major changes were made in 2019 when especially many residential areas and the city center areas got 30 kilometers per hour speed limits. There are still some streets with higher speed limits, mainly main streets, where the city wants that there are still those kind of network and streets for instance longer car trips, and the city wants to guide cars from residential areas and from local streets to those main streets where there is 40 or 50 kilometers per hour speed limit. And the city has also studied the safety impacts of reducing speed limits, and we have found that on those streets where speed limits were decreased in 2019 and also earlier in 2004, there were 8 or 9% less personal injuries on those streets compared to the streets where speed limits were not decreased. So we found out that there was a positive impact on promoting traffic safety. And another thing I'd like to highlight pedestrian and cyclist crossing arrangements, as the city has lately been focused on promoting those arrangements. As you saw walking is very popular transport mode in Helsinki, and cycling is something that the city wants to add in the future and get more cycling in the future. And in terms of safety and promoting those transport modes, it means that also this intersection and crossing arrangements should be safe enough. And usually many serious crashes typically occur at these locations. So that's why it's important to promote safety of crossings and intersections. And in the case of Helsinki, this means that the city is not only focused on those areas where there have been crashes, also they are in our focus, but we are also assessing the crash risks, so meaning that this is a potential arrangement that there could be crashes, and the city wants to especially focus also on those areas to develop the safety of those crossings where there is a higher crash risk. And this could mean that there would be raised crossings, there could be traffic island, traffic lights, or in some special cases even the connection for motor vehicles can be taken away at some side of the intersections if there are not any other potential solutions to promote safety. As you can see here, one example at the right side of this slide. So there's an example of this so-called modal filter, which was applied to at one intersections to promote cyclist safety. And regarding cycling safety, another key thing is that the city has a high quality and straight cycling route network plan, and this means that there should be this kind of high quality cycle path between key residential areas and workplace areas, and this is something that the city is currently developing and building. And on those high quality network, there is a wide enough cycle path which is separated from motor vehicles and pedestrians. But as you think how the cycling trips usually goes, so most of the cycling trip you can apply this kind of high quality network, but usually at least at the beginning of the trip and at the end of the trip you need to cycle also on other kind of streets, and in many cases that means that you also need to cycle on local streets, and in Helsinki there's not usually any separated cycle paths on those local streets, but it's important that on those streets there are some kind of traffic calming elements which make sure that motor vehicles are not doesn't have too high speeds there, and also that the number of motor vehicles is low enough so that it's safe to cycle there with the motor vehicles and share the road with the motor vehicles. And this also means that the speed limits on those local streets should be 30 kilometers per hour, as it is in Helsinki. And another thing would like to also highlight is how the city is designing street base and narrowing the roadway too. So on the left side here, you can see an example of a typical main street in inner city area. Usually there is one-way cycle paths which are separated from pedestrians and also motor vehicles, and so there's kind of a typical physical separations and even level separations. And in Main Street there is usually 1 or 2 driving lanes to each directions. Then can be also parking at the one side of the street, as you can see in this example, or there can be trees or some other greenery areas. And as I earlier told, so tram lines and tram traffic is very key element in the city center area. So especially in the city center and inner city area, there's usually tram lines, and it's located in the middle of the streets, and it's also separated by the stone from the roadway. So this is typical structure for main streets, but on the right side you can see on the other hand local streets where ideas be different. So local streets are only for local traffic and short trips, or meaning that if there is a car trip, you usually only take a small part of that trip on local street, and mainly the car trip would be then on main streets. And to make sure that is the thing, there should be traffic calming elements such as one or two sided street narrowing. There could be speed bumps. There can be one-way streets. And the main thing there is that the city wants to focus the whole like a residential area, local street areas, not only one street there, but the city needs to look at the whole area and what kind of driving paths there could be, and whether it's tempting enough to drive through those areas or not, because the city wants that motor vehicles are not driving through those residential and local areas. And the last thing, as one of the key elements, that will also highlight speed cameras, as the city has lately introduced and built many automatic speed camera sites. And at the moment there are about 60 speed cameras on main and collector streets, where we have usually 40 or 50 kilometers per hour speed limit. And those cameras are mainly for speed enforcements, but they can also enforce running through red lights and also illegal use of bus lanes. And the city have also studied the speed impacts of those cameras in these before and after study settings, and we have found that speed cameras especially reduce the excessive speeding, meaning that if you were exceeding the speed limit by more than 10 kilometers per hour, so especially those cases were strongly reduced in this before after study, which is really positive impact for speed cameras. Most of these speed cameras are still rather new, so we don't know the exact impact on serious crashes or other type of accidents, but at least we can say that they have reduced excessive speeding. And the one good thing regarding speed cameras is that some people might say that when you see speed camera, you brake before overtaking it, and after you overtake it, you accelerate again. But this does not seem to be the case in Helsinki, as we also measured speeds at the street section after the camera, and we found that there were also less excessive speeding after the camera. So this was also really, I think, positive